welcome. Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Camila. Give me 1 second, I don't know why. There we go. Shout out to Gas. Well, I think my marker's running out. Let me see. Shout out to Myla. There we go. Shout out to Thank you, Gas. I'm glad I pronounced it correctly. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Thank you for being here. Shout out to Alana. Shout out to Jessa. Shout out to Avadia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Vanessa. Hi, Vanessa. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Mirab. Shout out to Amori. Shout out to Sarah. Hello everyone, welcome. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Cindy. Shout out to Ella. Shout out to Josie. Shout out to Ifra. Shout out to Sophie. Shout out to Harley. Shout out to Miss Indy. Oh, shout out to Lila, or Layla, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Thank you, Ella. I truly appreciate it. Shout out to Eileen. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kiram. Shout out to Shira, or Shira. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Eliana. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Lila. Shout out to Goob. Shout out to M. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Livia. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Jorlianis. Sorry if I mispronounced her name. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Lavinia. Shout out to Kavia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Blaine. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Jewy. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Aaliyah. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lamila? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Also, did I write it correctly? I don't know if I did. Shout out to Baby Monster. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Nyla. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Shay. Shout out to Clara. Shout out to Lydia. Shout out to Chelsea. Shout out to Alvina. Shout out to Nikita. Shout out to Sabine. Shout out to Matthias. Shout out to Tim. Shout out to Ivoriana. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Margaret. Shout out to Braylon. Shout out out to Ali. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Anne Marie. Shout out to Grace. Happy birthday. Shout out to Alea. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Cosmo. Shout out to Briella. Shout out to Liana. Shout out to Karina. Shout out to Ukari. Thank you for showing me how to pronounce your name. Shout out to Ukari. Shout out to Amina. Shout out to Bianca. Thank you everyone for your patience. Please write your name if I haven't gotten to you. Shout out to Ezra. Shout out to Naomi. Shout out to Desi. Shout out to Carla. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Eden. Shout out to is it Micah or Mika? Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Harmony. Shout out to Aber. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Prince. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Viviana. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to, is it Kriya? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Taria. Thank you for subscribing. Or Tareya, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Gnarly. Shout out to Viviana. Viviana, can you put your name again? I'm so sorry if I misspelled it. Shout out to Zanaya. Shout out to Viviana. Oh, there we go. Okay, let me spell your name correctly. There we go. Okay, shout out to Viviana. Thank you for writing your name again. Shout out to Amina. Shout out to Soraya. Shout out to Oliver. Shout out to Astrid. Shout out to Aaron. Shout out to William. Shout out to Zena. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Hiro. Shout out to Caitlin. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Eliana. Shout out to Meki. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Or Mekai. Mekai. Sorry. Shout out to Talia. Shout out to these people. Oh, it's Hilu? Oh, sorry. Shout out to Hilu, but let me try to write it right here. Shout out to Hilu. There we go. Thank you for showing me how to write your name. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Also write your name if I haven't gotten to you. I'm so sorry. I wish I could write faster. But thank you so much for your patience. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Shout out to Alora. Shout out to King. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Mercy. Shout out to Val. Shout out to Reese. Shout out to Magali. Shout out to Himanshi. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Haley, I'll do yours in blue next. Shout out to Rose. Just remind me, Haley. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Journey. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Josephine. Shout out to Cara. Shout out to Kiana. Shout out to Skylar, I got you. Shout out to Advika. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to when I get to this part, I'm gonna do blue. Shout out to Abigail. I don't know if I spelled your name right. Let me know if I misspelled it. Oh, I think I got it. Never mind. Shout out to Nevaeh. Shout out to April. Shout out to Mac. Shout out to Al Hassan. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Nani. Shout out to Davin. Or Davin? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Haley, I got you. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Kylie. Shout out to Mika. Shout out to Isla. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Tyler. Shout out to Morgan. Shout out to Uma. Shout out to Austin. Shout out to Morgan. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Nova. Shout out to Adskia. What is it? Adskia? Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Zena. Shout out to Mathilde. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Carly. Shout out to Quintus. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Maverick. Shout out to Desi. Shout out to Aisha. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Natalie. Shout out to Eliza. Shout out to what is it? Paisley? Or Presley? Was it Presley or Paisley? I think it was Presley. Shout out to Presley. You're welcome, Aisha. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Gabby. Shout out to Michael. Shout out to Raven. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Lamila. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Matthias. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Talon. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Maria. Happy birthday. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Dante. Shout out to Quinn. Shout out to Eliana. Shout out to Audrey. Shout out to Jeffrey. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Paisley. Yeah. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Yunche. Shout out to Aileen, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Dagon, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Randy. Shout out to Zanaya. Shout out to Josh. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Sophie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Amanda. Shout out to Rory. Shout out to Gerlin. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lainey. Shout out to Jael. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Oh no, I misspelled it. There we go, like that. And then shout out to Easton. Shout out to Jace. Shout out to Elijah. Shout out to Willow. Shout out to Lowell. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Evie. Shout out to Ashreet. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Kiko. Shout out to Yusro. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Deanna. Shout out to Kurt. Shout out to Aniston. Shout out to Johnny. Shout out to America. Oopsie. Shout out to Pearly. Shout out to Vivian. Shout out to Zyla. Shout out to Alani. Shout out to these people. Thank you for your patience. On to the next page. Thank you for being here. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Amori. Shout out to Lowell, or Lowell, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Blakely. Did I spell it correctly? Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Wolfgang. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to Portugal. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Blaze. Happy birthday. Shout out to Brooke. Shout out to Mendy. Shout out to Shakina. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Parker. Shout out to Richard. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Angela. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Maggie. Shout out to Avery. Shout out to Danica. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Reagan. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Bella. Thank you so much for your patience. Shout out to Jack. Shout out to Blaze. Shout out to Deleza. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Bailey. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to you. The chat, it's going fast. Shout out to Louie. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Kayla. Shout out to Jamie Lee. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to 11. Shout out to Rylan. Shout out to Dakota. Shout out to Allie, or Ollie. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Quinn. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Bailey. Shout out to Andy. Shout out to Courtney. Shout out to Bruna. Shout out to Axel. Shout out to Remy. Shout out to Pilar. Shout out to Wyatt. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to George. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Brinley. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Finley. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Winner. Shout out to Quincy. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Christina. Shout out to Paris. Shout out to Gemma. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to Jonathan. Shout out to Luna. Shout out to Honey. Shout out to Marissa. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Marlene. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Addison. Shout out to Kate. Shout out to Yusuf. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Poppy. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to, oh my goodness, the chat's going by really fast. Shout out to Madison. Did I spell it correctly? Shout out to Pilar. Shout out to Hannah. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Kyra or Kira. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Molly. Shout out to Reagan. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Lola. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sabine. Shout out to Matthew. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to you. The chat's moving really fast for me. Shout out to Mia. I'm sorry. Shout out to Lucy. Shout out to Austin. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to, oh my goodness, Alexis. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Reina. Or Rena. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to these people. Thank you so much for your patience. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to you. Okay, on to the next page. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Taha. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Yusuf. Shout out to Jasmine. Shout out to Joella. Shout out to Logan. Shout out to Zara or Zara. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Inaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Jolene. Shout out to Kennedy. Shout out to Oliver. Shout out to April. Shout out to October. Shout out to Scarlett. Shout out to Baylor. Shout out to Zanaya. Shout out to Kenna. Shout out to Poppy. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Lila. Shout out to Ella. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Shinobu. Shout out to Caroline. Shout out to Rainley. Shout out to Winter. Shout out to Durga. Shout out to Liana. Shout out to River. Shout out to Isada. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Carter. Shout out to Emmerich. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Brandy. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Quinn. Shout out to China. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Fabron. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Esmer. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Lainey. Shout out to Aria. Shout out to Bryston. Shout out to Jaden. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Richard. Shout out to Beverly. Shout out to Kendall. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Joel. Shout out to Jeremy. Shout out to Americas. Shout out to Armando. Shout out to Harrison. Shout out to Autumn. Shout out to Kinley. Shout out to Tanvi. Shout out to Carl. Shout out to Bryson. Shout out to Sydney. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Mim. Shout out to Wyan. Shout out to Bentley. Shout out to Richard. Shout out to Alejandra. Shout out to Mora. Shout out to Sky. Shout out to Armani. Shout out to Dory. Shout out to Belinda. Shout out to Lyric. Shout out to Emric. Shout out to Lover. Shout out to Jimmy. Shout out to Rainier. Shout out to Audrey. Shout out to, excuse me, shout out to Charlotte. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Jaslyn. Thank you for your kind words. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, thank you. Shout out to Sadie. Thank you for your kind words. I truly appreciate it. Shout out to Landon. Excuse me. Shout out to Nessa. Shout out to Braylon. Or Brylan. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Lohitha. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Presley. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Kai. Shout out to Timir. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Bodhi. Oh no, how do you spell that? Oh, thank you. Shout out to Bodhi. Shout out to Valerie. Shout out to Zia. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to these people. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, on to the next page. Thank you so much for your patience. I truly appreciate it. I'm a little slow with writing, especially when the chat goes really fast. So I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to your name, okay? I try my best. So I appreciate that you're here. Thank you, thank you. Shout out to Dylan. Shout out to Jacob. Shout out to Bryn. Shout out to Blair. Shout out to Dash. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Aileen. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Finn. Shout out to Eve. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Jerry. Shout out to Gianna. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Kinley. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Kimura. Shout out to Natalia. Shout out to Oreo. Shout out to Lyric. Shout out to Darren. Shout out to Nadia. Shout out to Lohita. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Luna. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to, is it Ellie? Or Eli? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Shaya or Chaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Anthony. Shout out to Michaela. Shout out to Fabrun. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Weston. Shout out to Landry. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Ari. Shout out to Jaden. Shout out to Lexi. Shout out to Lila. Shout out to Brent. Shout out to Alice. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce your name. Alice? Sorry. Shout out to Maham. Shout out to Elle. Shout out to Lydia. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Deanna, or Deanna. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Theo. Shout out to Zach. Olivia. Shout out to Anaya. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Blake. Shout out to Finnegan. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Marwa. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Rylan. Shout out to Clay. Shout out to Shelly Fossilian. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Tess. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Kinsley. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Larry. Shout out to Serge. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Jordan. Shout out to Cassidy. Shout out to Guacamo. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Sailor. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to your name. Shout out to Seth. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Bonnie. Shout out to Yaretsi. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Lauren. Welsh. Shout out to Faith. Shout out to Liana, sorry. Shout out to Briley. Shout out to Faith. Shout out to Lavender. Shout out to Lurley. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Vane? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Rose. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to oh my goodness. Sorry, the chat goes fast. Shout out to Rihanna. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Fatima. Shout out to Kennedy. Shout out to Alima. Shout out to Kishelle. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Logan. Shout out to Weston. Shout out to Braylon. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Annie. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Thank you for being here. Also, thank you for your patience. I truly appreciate it. Shout out to Astrid. Shout out to Faith. Shout out to Asher. Shout out to Marco. Shout out to Losa. Shout out to Lily, or Lele, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Yaretsi. Shout out to Keith. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Losa, I got you. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Veda. Or Vita, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Campbell. Shout out to Tammy. Shout out to Juliet. Shout out to Soto. Shout out to Lainey. Shout out to Appy. Shout out to Evie. Shout out to Jose. Shout out to Reese. Shout out to Jackie. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Silas. Shout out to Josiah. Shout out to Sammy. Shout out to Tiara. With this notebook, I just leave it on my desk so that I'm ready for the next live stream. Shout out to Amy. Shout out to Steffi. I do, on live streams, I do shout outs. Shout out to Amy. Oh, I just put Amy. Shout out to Annika. And then I also post other content. I hope you can check it out as well. Shout out to Dagon. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kalaya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Kate. Oh, Kate with the C. Shout out to Kate. Shout out to Tamana. Happy birthday. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Monroe. Shout out to Kane. Shout out to Valoria. Shout out to Aileen. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Jax. Shout out to Chenny. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Paz. Shout out to Ace. Shout out to Miley. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Keandra. Shout out to Aishlyn. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Carter. Shout out to Gav. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Dallas. Shout out to Gian. Shout out to Alana. Shout out to Jameer. Shout out to Nikki. Shout out to Larissa. Shout out to Ricardo. Shout out to Renee. Shout out to Marina. Shout out to Kyla. Shout out to Garcia. Shout out to Sharon. Whoopsie. Shout out to Gavin. Happy birthday. Shout out to Raven. Shout out to Leah. Shout out to Jayani. Jayani. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Naomi. Shout out to Marin. Shout out to Logan. Shout out to Prehu. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to DeAndre. Shout out to Jessica. Shout out to Angel. Shout out to Ness. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Miran. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Davina. Shout out to Brooklyn. Shout out to Ariel. Shout out to Kylie. Shout out to Nevaeh. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Yoretzi. Shout out to Lamelia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Stephen or Stefan. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Allison. Shout out to William. Shout out to Ansh. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Gabriel. Shout out to Jace. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Reese. Shout out to Pony. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Makai. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Gianna. Shout out to Ness. Shout out to Alana. Shout out to Cindy. Shout out to Juliana. Sorry if I mispronounce her name. Shout out to Iris. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Arnav. Shout out to these people. Thank you so much for being here. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the shout outs. I also post other content on my channel. I hope you can check it out and support. Thank you again for being here and for taking the time to write your name. I live stream every day, so subscribe if you want to see when I'm gonna go live. I normally live stream around this time. Thank you. Have a great day or have a great night. Take care. Bye.